Hi, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have really inspiring conversations with artists living in and from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Yakic. Welcome to episode 155, and this is the final episode of 2024. Ngā mihi nui, thank you so very much for listening and for your support this year. I hope the podcast has cheered you up, motivated you, inspired you, affirmed what you do, or educated you in some small way. As you may know, the Creative Matters podcast is largely self-funded. However, I now have a way for you to show your support if you'd like to by making a small donation of $3, $5, $8, or $10 every month. There is a link in my podcast Instagram profile and in the show notes to sign yourself up if you'd like to donate each month, and you can cancel any time. Every small contribution is hugely appreciated and actually makes a difference and will really ensure that the podcast is sustainable and hopefully will continue for years to come. I'd like to wish you a super happy, healthy, safe Christmas ahead and a wonderful holiday, and look forward to catching up with you in 2025. I've got my beautiful guest artist booked until May of next year, so that's really exciting, and we've got an amazing list of artists coming. So I do hope you can join me for 2025. Take care. Love you all. Now on to this week's episode. I'm speaking with Alex Wilkinson. Alex is a ceramic artist and entrepreneur living in Te Awamutu in the Waikato. She founded Mystery Creek Ceramics out of a love for Nerikomi and functional, beautiful ceramic tableware. In this episode, Alex talks about her journey to art school in her 20s via 3 years of studying engineering and 2 years studying business, and how discovering and nurturing her creative side has helped with her well-being, mental health, and managing depression. Alex credits pottery for helping her out of a severe period of depression and putting her back on the path of valuing herself and her contribution to the world. Alex says, "I simply would not be here if it were not for me trying a night class in pottery and my incredible support network." Alex shares the more conceptual part of her art practice and explains how this sits comfortably alongside her Nerikomi tableware production, allowing her to push her thinking and self-expression. We explore Nerikomi, a Japanese pottery term describing the artistic technique where multiple layers of clay are marbled or combined to create various designs, and what Alex loves about this process. Passing her passion for ceramics on to others is Alex's favourite part of her practice. She talks about the different ways she does this through teaching, supplying, mentoring, and building her audience and networks through social media. We have really great chats about using TikTok and Pinterest, the highs and lows of small business, the commercial and conceptual sides of Alex's art practice. We talk about mentors, being the face of the business, branding, suppliers, and so much more. This episode is a really fascinating insight into business life alongside the life of an artist, and a lovely, lovely peep into the world of Mystery Creek Ceramics. Hi, Alex.
Hello, Mandy. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's beautiful here.
Thank you.
Tranquil.
Yes, we can hear the birds. Might be able to pick up the birds on the microphone, which is good. Doors are open. Gorgeous day.
Honestly lovely.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get any work done.
Well, yeah, sometimes I don't. So, it's great to have you here, and thank you so much for being on the podcast, and a big warm welcome to you.
Thanks for having me.
And we did meet at Black Door Gallery at an opening, I think, a few months ago.
Yes.
Which was good, and you were being like a fangirl.
I was. I am a huge fan of the podcast. I've listened to most episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, which was so nice for me. It was just like, oh my goodness, it was just so lovely.
Yeah, every morning on my dog walk, it's either creative podcast or another genre, which involves murder. But like mostly creative in the mornings, depending on the mood. And like my dog walks about an hour, so it's about the same as a podcast episode.
Yeah.
So it sort of feels like you get a one-on-one with Mandy and guest.
Nice.
It's fabulous.
And dog.
And dog.
It's a good combo, hopefully. Yeah, well, that's so nice. And it was just, it was a buzz for me to have you respond in that way. To me, it was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like famous.
Well, it's funny because I didn't recognize you, even though I've seen you in photos. But as soon as you started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, of course.
Yeah.
How could I not place you?
So you were born in Te Awamutu in, what is that, central Waikato?
Yes.
Yeah. So I imagine that you would have been quite a full-on young child.
Where would you get that idea?
And I guess you probably did find a lot of your creativity as a youngster. So can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Absolutely. So I was born in Te Awamutu, but I grew up in Cambridge, which is just 20 minutes down the road. Went through school in Cambridge, and I was a lot. I still am. I was very creative as a child, incredibly creative. Always described as creative. Mostly painting. My grandmother was a painter, and but a very sport-focused family. So played a lot of sport as a child, all kinds, all the way through high school. And interestingly, at about when the subjects split, so when for us it was year 11, I sort of had taken on this intrinsic kind of from society and various things of I had to have a sort of a real job. I had to like contribute to society, which is quite funny. So when the sciences split in year 11, I wanted to take all three. And so year 10 I did art. I did painting and graphics. We didn't have sculpture at our school. I had never touched sculpture for quite a long time. And then once you take the three sciences, I didn't have room for the art, so I dropped all the art. I kind of jokingly say my depression started there, because it did. Well, maybe my impression of it did. So I took the sciences, and I'm actually notoriously terrible at science and maths. And I wanted to go to engineering school, and I wanted to be a woman engineer in a male-dominated industry. I wanted to be a chemical and process engineer. And I was determined. I'm the kind of person that if you tell me something, I will do the opposite. So it's quite hilarious for all my sort of teachers and mentors now. Even myself, it's hilarious. You could still tell me to do something and I would do the opposite. It's sort of like a let her get there by herself kind of vibes. Went through high school and then went to engineering school straight out. Now I went to Christchurch, Canterbury, after the earthquake. Chemical engineering school, Chem Pro. And as I didn't do practice apart from like drawing and painting and everything as a child, and then once we switched over to science, I wasn't very creative at all. Maybe some like side projects. I have a couple of funny memories from Canterbury, where I was more excited to decorate my room than I was to go to do lectures. And I was a terrible student. I ended up failing out. But a lot of life-changing stuff happened while I was at Canterbury, and my depression was probably at its worst. The one thing I do clearly remember is my best friend was in the painting school, and I walked into, they had these amazing studios. I don't know if they still have them. She had this room, and it was all dedicated to painting. And I really remember that feeling of almost jealousy, but I wasn't confident enough in myself to be able to, express myself at that stage. A lot of my depression is around sort of self-dislike and dislike of my kind of personality and the traits that I have and things like that. So I would have never been confident enough to actually paint or do anything at that stage. I'd really smushed down my internal being quite a lot to sort of try and fit in at engineering school and high school and stuff like that. And it's fair to say that it didn't go well. And I remember this sort of little twinge of jealousy, but also this fear of this room where she just honestly just expressed herself. It was quite amazing. So I failed out of engineering school, and I was quite unwell at that stage. I'd had a sort of a nasty car accident around that time, and generally just wasn't very well, mentally and a little bit physically as well. So I came home and I was like, cool, okay, let's give this round two. Let's try business school, because I can't do engineering. I'm terrible at maths.
And at that stage, you felt like you had to do a university degree. That was important to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was considered quite, like, as a child, I was quite intelligent once we got past times tables at primary school, because I still can't do those. But I was considered quite intelligent, and I guess when I grew up, that was just what you did. There sort of wasn't, you were smart, so you went to university.
Yeah.
And then you just sort of picked which degree you did. Did
that feel like a pressure that you, like a societal or family pressure that you felt that you felt that you had to kind of honour that, or was that something in you?
Both, honestly, both. I don't think I'd ever considered anything else. And I think that will become sort of part of my story. Is quite funny. Is I'd just never considered other options. So I just went. And I thought, well, I'll become an engineer because I love processes. I love systems. And so I was like, cool, okay. Well, I'm smart. Maybe I'll, do engineering and carry on. Turns out not that smart, but that's okay. And I actually hated the study.
Yeah, you probably you definitely are smart. It's just not
in that area.
That's not your area.
Not my vibe. Maths, my gosh. Still can't do my times tables. I should have known. Anyway, and then so I went to business school after that, Waikato University. Mum got me home eventually. I was probably in the worst stage of my depression then. Started at business school because I ended up doing like 3 years at engineering before I failed out. I was committed.
Wow.
But yeah, still didn't quite make it. And then I think I did about 2.5 years of business school. And around that time, me and my cousin took a night course in ceramics at the local Waikato Society of Potters. And the downhill slide started when I started missing my HR lecture for another pottery class in the middle of the week. So found pottery. We did a throwing course. I was terrible at throwing. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but
no, I actually haven't. I'm a bit funny with clay. It's a bit messy for my liking.
Oh, fair enough. I love the how it's got like it's kind of like printmaking in that there's steps. Like I'm scared of a blank canvas. White canvas scares the pants off me. But clay, you when we're throwing, you wedge and then you hop on the wheel, and there's this like process that's sort of meditative that gets you in. And then I started throwing. It took me about 1.5 years to learn to sort of actually throw, which is quite long. I've got, a beautiful team member who's like, a couple of weeks. So go you. But and then I skipped my HR lecture for a course with a tutor of mine it was decoration. And that's really where I came alive. Like as soon as you introduce colour into it for me, I was a happy little camper. And it just went downhill from there, really. I dropped out of business school and then started another business. Started my first business, which was a teaching studio with a business partner in Te Awamutu. That went really well for 2 years, and then I switched over to art school. Because of kind of previous experience and like a lot of education in terms of university education at this point. I think I'd been there for 5.5 years before I even started.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It took me a while to pay off that student loan. They let me in at third year art school. And then I did a year at third year and then honours. So I actually have an honours degree but nothing undergrad. Honours degree in sculpture. That's all. Timeline gets a little bit funny here because my striped ceramics took off in my third year. So my business really kicked in while I was still studying.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you must have been doing some great stuff just getting your work out there.
I think I just went through the process. I really, you just make a whole lot of terrible work. I did a calculation a few years ago that I'd made like something like 15,000 Nerikomi mugs before, to get to the point that they're at maybe 2 years ago, which is so many.
Wow. And what did you do with those?
Oh, some of them were sold. A lot of them, like a lot of my friends have them, I Framing House in Hamilton, they put my work in and they've got, had the, a version of work that no one's sort of ever seen now. And then in 2020, we went into lockdown and I was at my mum's house within my little tiny house. Well, I've been doing ceramics the whole way through, really. Like the whole way through, as soon as I sort of taken that course at business school, and like there was maybe 3 years in between there where I was just tootling away. But I never really thought it could be a job. I actually thought I was going to become a teacher. So I became really interested in learning all the facets of ceramics that you possibly can, because I thought, well, to be the best teacher that I could possibly be, I need to understand lots of these different techniques. So I was just trying stuff, doing all kinds of stuff, got into slip casting for a while.
And that was after uni?
Yeah. But before art school.
Right.
And then went to art school. That was really challenging, but good.
And were you focusing on ceramics?
Yes. I've done a bit of video, but I've never really wanted to dabble in anything else. Ceramics are kind of like glass sometimes. Once it captures you, you're in. There is nothing else.
Yeah, you're hooked.
Yeah.
And why did you feel like you needed to go to art school? Because you'd already started learning about ceramics. Why did you feel like you needed art school?
I actually started the diploma. Like, I didn't start the diploma, but I did an experience on the Waikato Society of Potters does a diploma course through Otago Polytechnic, where the practical's done in studio and the online courses are done online, obviously. And I did one of those courses, and I sort of found that my ceramic skills were really up there in terms of like different techniques and all that kind of thing, and my understanding of clay as a material. But the idea part of my work wasn't as strong. So the sort of conceptual side was a lot weaker. And I was making all this work. I had a couple of big shows. I won an award in the National Youth Art Awards, things like that. But there wasn't sort of a larger purpose to the work. And I thought I was still sort of on this, I need to get a degree at some point. I've done all this study. I may as well. I've got to get the piece of paper at the end of it.
Yeah.
And if the piece of paper is an art degree, then that's okay too. It's just, and so, went in. And actually, that was really pivotal, I think. That made me it changed my way of thinking, of approaching, not necessarily the medium, but approaching the work I made.
And how, in what way? I mean, and what kind of thinking did you end up doing?
Well, I guess it's the larger why. Like, why are you making this work? Where is this coming from? What are you trying to communicate? Who's looking at your work? Why are they looking at it? All of thinking about that rather than just thinking about the material. A lot of, when I was working in, just learning all these different techniques, a lot of you're like, oh, well, that's hard to make, so that's good. There's a lot of this sort of technical aspect of ceramics.
Like the harder it is to make, the more value it has.
Oh, yeah, sort of, and dealing with that kind of thing. And I was entering art awards, but I never got in or anything. And I was making work, but the sort of the larger, well, what is it all? What's the point? What's the meaning? Yes, you can make mugs or, work, but what is it? And so technically I had quite a good handle on quite a few different techniques, and then thought, well, if the diploma's not at the right stage for me, then what else is there? And then it became art school. And so, jumped in at third year with a very small class. We were at Wintec at Waikato, in Waikato, and I was the only sculpture student. Everybody else was painting.
Wow.
And then, we did an honours, do an honours proposal and go into your honours year. And but unfortunately, not unfortunately, but I was very time pressured because in 2020 when we locked down, I must have been at the beginning of honours or something like that. I made the stripe mugs. And once the stripe mugs, it was that same time when I'd been working at my dad's. My dad provided me this amazing little space at the back of his workshop to work for a while. Then we went into lockdown and I was in this tiny little space and I made the first stripe mug, and I think it was blue. And we were at that time when COVID had sort of shut the entire country down and nobody could get anything. All the galleries couldn't get anything from anywhere else. So they really pivoted towards New Zealand ceramicists. And I was just lucky with the timing. Everybody loved the stripes.
And they are quite unique, aren't they?
I guess so.
Yeah. And how did you discover the stripes? Is that part of the Nerikomi?
I started on the wheel in ceramics. I did a wheel course, and then if we follow the ceramics journey, and then I did Yasmin's Davies decorating on clay, and that's when like the fire really started. Was introduced colour, and in that we did all kinds of things like screen printing on clay, mono printing on clay, underglaze transfers, all the kind of decorating techniques that there are. And before that, I'd just been throwing on the wheel, and you make circular things on the wheel, right? And we did Nerikomi. So Nerikomi is a Japanese word that means to fold coloured clay. In that context, we did, you can do it with natural clays, naturally coloured clays, different browns, different whites, things like that. And around that time, black clay had just come on the market in New Zealand. And so I was mixing black and white and, trying different things. And then I started staining my own clay with coloured pigment. The Nerikomi stayed random for a long time. They were just sort of coloured blocks where you took a bit of cream clay and then you shoved a whole lot of colour in it and just sort of popped it on its side and sliced it. And you'd get just random effects. They stayed like that for quite a while. And then they were gas fired at the beginning, and so the white clay would take on kind of a blue tinge from the reduction. And that's I think the first range that Framing House had. And I've done like markets and stuff, but it was really just a hobby. And when I went to art school, I was, making sculptures at art school, and we had this lockdown and we could only work with what we had. And I made the stripes. And the stripes just went crazy. Just sort of overnight, you picked up 5 galleries around the country, and
wow,
we just like making the stripes was.
And how did you make that the connection with the galleries? Did they see
found
you
me
on Instagram?
On Instagram, yeah, because everybody was at home and we had nothing else to do. So I was really lucky that there was just sort of the right timing, and ceramics was really coming up in 2020 as well, like really, on a what do you call it, exponential growth curve.
Yeah. And that was mostly mugs or tableware, the stripes?
Yeah, the stripes. Well, stripes are a tableware. Yeah, there's only, I think we're up to like 27 different items in that range.
Wow.
And 12 different colours.
And the galleries were wanting tableware?
Yes. Yes, I hadn't I'd done a bit of experimenting sculpturally, but like when I look back now, it was vases with patterns on it. There was still this real tableware bent to my work, and that comes from the wheel essentially. And I like boldly said, as I was learning, I'm never going to hand build. Hand building's for suckers. Now I hand build only, which is hilarious. So that's kind of, and then I was like, I'm never going to work with brown clay. I don't like brown clay. We've got a brown range now. That's like it's a classic. I'm going to be an engineer. Oh, no, I'm not. Classic.
Yeah. But it's good that you listen to that voice inside your head. You're like, actually, no. And you sort of do that little pivot, which is a positive thing in a way, isn't it? I mean, it's got you where you are now, which is, you're happy where you are.
Yeah, I mean, if I wasn't so stubborn in the first place, I might not make those bold statements and then have to take them back.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just about, I think when I was younger, I was a very black and white person. It is or isn't. And slowly as you get older, you learn to live in the shades of grey, right? So that's just like a personal development thing. Yeah, and then I made the stripes, and then my partner and I were really lucky to buy a house in lockdown, or just after lockdown, in Kihi, which is attached to Te Awamutu. So we moved from Mystery Creek from Mum's house to our house, and we had a little shed down the back. And that's how Mystery Creek grew. It went through, the kilns used to be at Dad's place, and that was amazing. And then I worked in Dad's shed, and then Mum's shed, and then finally got my own little shed.
How amazing.
Yeah.
And at that point, were you thinking of yourself as an artist who was making and selling to galleries, or were you had you already decided you wanted to have a business of some sort and you were working towards that?
Well, I was still studying full time at this stage. So I wasn't really thinking about anything, and I was just trying to balance it all. It took me a long time to realise that I wasn't, because I guess I'd gone to art school to get the piece of paper so that I could be a teacher and teach ceramics, because you need something behind you. And then all of a sudden I sort of found myself as a maker. But I got makers in quite early. I had a team member in quite early because of that demand on my time. I was still, I mean, I think when I look back now, I think I didn't really give art school much time because there was the demand of stocking and making and things. Art school was kind of just this little thing on the side. I think if I went back now, it would be very different.
Yeah, people often say that. So if we could just go back to what you mentioned earlier, that you had times of depression through your sort of study days and your, I guess, early 20s, was it?
Yeah.
Or late teens. And thank you very much for being happy to share that kind of thing. I think it's really important to be talked about. So you feel now, I guess in hindsight, that perhaps it was something to do with you not expressing yourself creatively that led to that, or didn't help at that point?
Yeah, I think I was really, like, as a young person, you try and fit in, right? You try and fit into the world. And I really pushed against who I would consider myself now and tried to sort of fit in this little box that said, I'm an engineer and I will, you had a little pathway. And a quite black and white thinking as well when you're younger. And I think as I let go of, as I changed from year 10 to year 11 and I let go of all those creative pursuits. And I actually think that year 10, I think Mr. Holton, my art teacher at the time, I drew this shell. We all had to draw shells. And he was like, you should carry on. And I was like, no, I've got my plan. Like, I'm sorted. And I think over time, it just really, I think every year that I didn't lean into who I was and show up as myself in the world, whether that be creatively or even just as a human, was another sort of weight that by the time I'd come back round to creativity, maybe like 26 or 27, there was a lot to kind of undo. I sort of, in a way, I really felt like I had to get to know myself again and figure out who I was. And I think pottery really helped with that. I am a 3D artist, and I think that also not having that 3D, it's at school or in any way, wasn't sort of, I do wonder if I'd touched clay earlier, what would have happened.
Yeah. And
maybe it wouldn't have been right. But the sort of transformation over that, as I touched clay and really got into it, like it became sort of an addiction, clay. Other artists probably talk about it like this. Once you start in clay and you're hooked, And I think that was a way of dealing with it, and a really slow way of showing up in the world as yourself. You started with bowls and plates, and the stripes really feel like showing up as me. And so I feel like my work is really like recently started to show up again sculpturally, and that's quite challenging. I find that quite challenging. And I think it's the way that I express myself is through making. It just takes, and I haven't, had a big gap in the middle. And so I sort of forgotten, when you're young and you splash paint around and, have fun, and then you get a bit older and you sort of, oh no, I must do this and I must do that, even if it's making you unhappy. And then I sort of didn't really realize I was unhappy. And I didn't really, even if I did realize, I didn't realize I was unhappy. And so then I also didn't know that there was another option, and I didn't know how to change.
And you probably didn't realize that actually being creative was the thing that was going to help you.
Oh, I had no idea.
So was it just that you came upon clay and then you thought, actually, this is making me feel a lot better?
I think it was a slow process. I think, coming home and a lot more support, moving away from home to go to Christchurch and then moving home and having a lot more support. Like, there were some really hard years in there. I've been on antidepressants for a really long time now. And there's lots of ways to manage it, I kind of view it as there's a whole lot of things that help 1%. And once you build up enough things, you might get 10% a bit of help. So, there's a bit of talking in there. My mum was really key in that journey and helping me get through the really hard times. And then I find being productive and having goals and, having a purpose is really important to me. I think that helped a lot. So when I lost I was set on that dream of becoming an engineer, and then I fell off that, but I had nothing else, and so I felt quite wayward for a long time.
Yeah.
Then I was like, business school, try again, and then the sort of same cycle happened.
You didn't have that drive and that sort of end goal.
Yeah, exactly right. And so you feel a bit, sort of purposeless in the world, and I think purpose is largely like a big important thing. And then lifestyle and exercise. I don't think alcohol was particularly helpful for me, and we have quite a large binge drinking culture at university. And so lots of little things. And then now when I look back, I mean, I'm 30 now. If it started around 16 or 17, I think in the last 5 years, it's like an exponential graph, right? You go up 1%, 1%, 1%, then all of a sudden you look back and you've gone up 30%.
Yeah.
And so it's still a lifestyle. There's a lot of things that I do or won't do to manage my depression, but being creative is a big part of how I work through. It's kind of how I understand the world and how I put myself in the world, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you've found yourself through this creative work? You feel more comfortable in your own skin?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a process. When you've got quite a large personality like me, it's sort of hard to fit into the world sometimes. And there's definitely areas where I don't fit in. And I still really struggle with that. I really struggle with self-compassion and self-love and all of that sometimes.
I'm sorry you feel like that.
Yeah.
Because you are, when I met you, you draw people to you. Like, you've got so much to give as a person, and it doesn't matter that you might be slightly different to some people. Like, I think that's a strength.
Yeah, and I guess I'm trying to change my perception of that, and I think that will be a lifelong journey.
It takes time.
Yeah, but I mean, every time I make a work, or every time I make, I've got an exhibition at Depot right now with the Object Maker group, and I've got really comfortable with my functional wear. I've got really comfortable with that quite a few years ago, and that requires very little sort of personal. It's not me putting myself out there much anymore. It was at the beginning, but the works I have in Depot are actually smashed. They're vases with manifestos written on them to certain emotions. One of them is regret, things that I regret. And then I smashed the vase. Well, I actually got someone else to smash it for me and then glued it back together. And presenting that work was really scary. I found that really scary. And I think that's just that. It's my artwork as I work through it and as I get older and as I figure myself out. Every little piece that I make reveals a little bit more about me. And I think it's sort of getting comfortable with that.
Being, sharing that part of you.
Yeah. And I still lack a lot of confidence in that area. I mean, I have three practices, and this is quite an interesting way of viewing it. And I think that's because of my interesting background. I view myself as having three creative practices. I have my functional wear business, Mystery Creek Ceramics, and that's one practice. My functional wear, the mugs and the bowls and the plates, that's one practice. The second practice is my business, I view it as a creative practice. Mystery Creek Ceramics, which looks after the functional wear, but we also supply pottery supplies and do classes and things like that. And then my third practice is my artwork. And in the last couple of seasons of my life, if I view it in that way, between the three practices, it's been very focused on the functional wear and the business. The business has done a lot of growing. I'm really worried. This is hilarious. I was really worried I was going to be a one-hit wonder with the stripes. Like I was going to be like one and done. And I'd be like that music artist. Everyone was like, oh, they were a great one-hit wonder, but they could never follow it up. So for the last few years, it's been really focused on making sure that there's something to follow the stripes up. It was like, what if all of a sudden everybody doesn't like stripes? What am I going to do?
But is a stripe, is that the thing that you're really well known for and that people love? And do you feel like now that you've done it for a few years, it can just continue, and then you can add different ranges or whatever you decide to do?
Absolutely. We've had a few hiccups on the different ranges, but there's been a few flops in there. But that's fun. that's part of the practice.
Yeah,
right?
and you're still making.
Yeah, 100%. And then the business has been growing a lot. We've just opened a store at Made in Hamilton. We're about a year and a half open now. So that was my first foray into retail. And that's been, that's that season. And then this year it's been about like a season of art with the Object Maker Fellowship taking us through. So more of a challenging, that's probably the scariest practice.
Well, it's more sort of, you're putting yourself, as you said, more into it. It's probably making you feel more vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Which is probably good.
Yeah, I'm not a fan though.
No, it can be
It's
hard.
a painful process.
It's good in the long run, but it can be hard when you're actually going through the process.
Yeah, like we opened the depot show and it was really funny because I actually didn't invite anyone. I was too scared.
Really?
I was too scared. I don't think I might have like dropped a few posts on social media, but I didn't tell many people. I didn't send out a big invite or anything. And I was kicking myself afterwards because it went really well. And I was like quite surprised. And now, like I'm a difficult, when I'm uncomfortable, I'm quite difficult to work with too. So I've been like complaining the whole time along, like, this is awful. I don't want to do this. And then like looking back on it now, I'm like, wow, that was so good for me. So it's quite funny.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's just great for you from what you've been through to actually kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone when you're already kind of dealing with, trying to figure out who you are and being true to yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of those things combined are so good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easier to sit down and make mugs every day. That's easier from a personal growth perspective. But to make work, there is some work inside me, some sculptural work. It's just sort of figuring out how and in what way that's going to come out.
So tell us about your fellowship. I mean, I can't actually believe that you're doing all these different things as well as this fellowship, which is basically studying full time.
Maybe not full time, but it is a huge commitment. It's been a busy year. I don't like to slack off. There's a lot on. I like a lot on my plate. We actually make about 7,000 items a year out of my shed that's not that big, which is pretty cool.
And sell it at Mystery Creek.
Yeah, and we still have a few galleries throughout New Zealand. We work with, some amazing galleries all throughout New Zealand, which is really great. And then, we put my art practice on top of that, and then the business itself as well, where we have a lovely team who I could not do it without. A paid team and then a lot of volunteers behind the scenes as well.
Sorry, there's a plane going over the top of us.
You got to shout out the volunteers because they do the unpaid labour, and that's tougher.
Yeah. So the fellowship, how did that come about?
I applied.
And what was it called?
It's called Object Maker Aotearoa, and it's run by Seed Pod Studio, and there's 10 object makers on it, all throughout New Zealand. And I applied, and I just was like, oh, cool, I won't get it. And then I did. And it's been really fun. There's 3 ceramic artists, and then a couple of jewelers and a couple of sort of multimedia artists. And we've done 3 sort of modules this year. So the first module was a lot of like practice examination where we did exercises and things like that, and we weren't allowed to work in our own medium. And I can't say I was a fan. I just love clay. Love clay. Don't want to work in anything else. But it was really challenging and it was really good. And then the second section was working on business skills and capability building and things like that. And then the third, we've had this amazing show at Depot and some more work with industry professionals.
Sounds amazing.
It is. It's been fabulous. The connections between the makers has been what's incredible. So I already knew one of them as a potter through the larger networks, but meeting artists who work in different ways is really interesting. We all face the same challenges. We all want slightly different things, which I think is interesting as well. And we all want our careers to look a little bit different. But having those discussions, I think having a good community around you is really important.
Yeah. And working alongside other people can bring a whole new way of working in some ways.
Absolutely. Do
you think it's helping your practice?
It's helping my artistic practice, absolutely. I might have been neglecting the replacement for the stripes, but that'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all a big balance.
This is a short break from the episode with Alex. I'd like to welcome you to the Creative Matters notice board, where I briefly let you know about a few chosen arty happenings around Aotearoa, New Zealand, that I think you'll be interested in. It feels like a long time away, I know, but put this in your calendars. 75 artists who have been guests on the Creative Matters podcast will be part of a group show entitled Connection, which will be at Kumua Arts in Auckland from the 23rd of June to the 19th of July 2025. All listeners and guests and friends are warmly invited to the opening event, which will be Friday, June the 27th from 5 till 8, and I really hope to see you there. I'm sure you've all heard of Artful, the largest online gallery in Aotearoa, New Zealand. It was founded by Jessica Agustin Cleary and John Barnett in 2022 and showcases a carefully curated selection of works by over 70 artists. Passionate about visual art and artists who create it, Artful's mission is to make art accessible and share the joy of collecting and living with art with everyone. Jessica also offers commission and curatorial advisory services, so no matter what you're looking for or what you need, if it's related to living artfully, head to artful.co.nz. That's ARTFULL to start your journey. You can also find out more about Artful in the episode where I talked to Jessica back in September 2022. My friends at Parnell Gallery are currently taking artist submissions, everybody. Parnell Gallery was established in 1976 and represents a diverse range of New Zealand artists across painting, sculpture, and limited edition mediums. The gallery warmly welcomes submissions from artists who feel their work aligns with their ethos. For insights into the submission process, including how to research galleries and approach them professionally, visit their news page at parnellgallery.co.nz. Now back to the lovely Alex. So I find it really interesting that you think of yourself as an artist, but you also have a really amazing connection and sort of awareness of commercial life and business, which I guess is partly because you studied business for some time. But not all artists are like that. So it's like you want to have a business, you want to have a shop, you want to provide lots of services to ceramic artists, and you want to mentor people, and you want to teach people, and then you also want to have your sort of own personal art practice, which is a lot.
I just want it all, Mandy.
You do.
It's problematic.
But you seem to be coping really well with that. How do you approach your business?
I think because I came through, like I went to engineering school and that taught me how to work hard. And I do some pretty long hours. And engineering really teaches you a work ethic because it's a hard course. I mean, I failed most of it, but it's still a hard course.
Yeah.
And then business school is interesting because I think the business course that I did at Waikato Management School was really, it's how to work in a big business, you know, because there's departments, right? I think I was in supply chain because, again, it's coming back to that systems, which is what ceramics is kind of like. And then got to art school. So the art came later, but other things came first. So it was always sort of, you have to make money, you have to eat, you have to live. And I think the approach is that, for me, is different in that if I viewed business as something that was a pain and I've got a lot of admin to do and it's awful, it would be like a self-perpetuating cycle. But I sort of chose to flip that, and business can be really exciting. It can be really creative. It can be really interesting. You can, you have to problem solve all the time. It's actually quite similar, but I think it's all about in how you approach it. And sure, there's jobs you don't like, but there's jobs you don't like in ceramics either. Same in painting and all creative aspects. There's grunt work and then there's fun stuff. And I enjoy it. Sure, reconciling in zero is not, that doesn't blow my socks off, does it? But the way that you approach social media and branding and, how you make a system more efficient or make your process more efficient. That's all sort of business related. And so I just approach it with a different lens, I think. And I find it quite exciting. I love it. Sometimes I get sucked into it and I won't make art for quite a while because I'm so invested in trying a new process, trying new products, reinventing the way that we do things. Sure, there's a team to manage as well at this point. And it is really interesting. And I think a lot of the skills transfer, but it is the way that you view it. Lately, I've been doing a lot of time investment in marketing, which has been, it's hard, and it's sort of outside my area of expertise, if you like. But I think we've got a good product, and so I think we can get that to more people.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of mentors as well. I have a lot of people that I talk to about a lot of different things. And I'm constantly thinking of ways to improve in all aspects, improve my art, my business practice, certain things. It's sort of everything bleeds into one another and is separate at the same time.
Yeah. So what actually happened to make you think, I'm going to make this into a business? Was it just the sort of initial success of that stripy product?
Essentially. Because I was like, cool, teacher. Oh my gosh, people are buying these stripes.
What
and I
can
can't
do?
make them fast enough.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to make them fast enough for years. Also, I make too many colours, but I love colour. What can I say? And so it sort of became about and then when I left art school, I was so busy. Leaving art school was a relief because I just walked into my business. And I think that's really an incredible thing, that if every artist that came out of art school walked into a type of business or their own way that they wanted to work, we'd have a lot more employed artists, because the statistics on people walking out of art school with jobs is really, really low.
Yeah.
And so I was real scared of that, and I knew that going into it. So I was like, cool, I'm going to be a teacher. And then I walked out into my own business, and it was just incredible, really. I mean, my workload halved overnight because art school was gone. And I think since 2020, beginning of 2022, which was when I finished, till now, it's been the season of business.
And so you thought, okay, I need to get this product out. I need to make more of it. So that's when you started taking on people to help you with making?
My first employee started while I was still at art school.
Wow.
Because I didn't have time.
So how much are you actually making of that range?
The stripes? Of the 7,000 items a year, it would be 90%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So were you thinking that you wanted to open a shop? Was that part of it, or did it just become sort of necessary for what you were making, that you needed an actual retail space? How did that come about?
The opportunities just pop up. So the other thing about my family is, like, my dad runs a business, my mum ran a business for a while, and my grandfather had a business. So they're quite business minded, and we grew up in that environment. So it's, constantly thinking about improvement. So it's like, cool, the gallery, you invest 40% into the gallery for them to do cover their, because early on I didn't have a reputation. So the galleries do all your marketing, right? You're investing the 40% that you pay the gallery into your marketing. And then an opportunity came up. They contacted me. I thought I'd go with a teaching studio first, because I love teaching, absolutely love teaching, love passing on my love for clay, love it when students, hook into that love of clay, or they can solve a problem or anything like that. It's really fun. So I thought I'd open a teaching space. And I, had this big dream. The big dream is to have everything: a teaching space, a manufacturing site, a gallery, and a supply store. And then Made came to me. I wasn't the first person that they approached for that space, but and it was the right size for a store. Thought, okay, let's give it a shot. It was amazing, and it was amazing. We were the first tenant open in Made. Made is an amazing complex. It's full of artisans, can't say that word, artisans, and lots of other creative people. We're down in the sheds, and so next to us we have a coffee roastery, Grey Street Roasting, who have turned me into a coffee snob. Then the other side we have the Green, which is like an 8-person chef's table style restaurant that are booked out till next April. They're amazing.
Amazing.
And then we have another art studio, Ranger Studio, next to us as well. And then upstairs there's lots of small businesses combined into one area. And
I love the sound of that precinct.
it's beautiful. It was done by Matt Stark, and it's incredible. It was our old regional council building, and he's just transformed it. He basically ripped it all out, and it's stunning. And the opportunity came, and we were just like, why don't we give it a shot?
And you were selling enough to feel like you could afford the rent?
Yeah.
Which is good. You're in a good position.
Yeah, we added the supplies in because we don't have a supply store in Hamilton for ceramic supplies. So we added that in. And with my sort of extensive knowledge, I love talking to people who, are looking for the right clay or the right glaze, or we firework for people. We've just started running classes. It's fabulously fun.
It sounds amazing. It's something that I've always kind of dreamed of, doing something like that out here.
Yeah.
At Muriwai. I mean, I've got no retail experience, but I love the idea of using my teaching background and then, having an art space or even having a space for artist residencies.
Wow.
Oh, my God. And then, having young people coming in and being able to inspire them. But we have the local, Kumu Arts.
Yeah.
Is awesome in that way. It's probably doing a similar thing, but I don't know. I love the idea of having something that's quite local.
Yes.
That's quite about the area.
Yeah, I think there's this interesting thing is like, I mean, I was quite sporty growing up, but if art is the way of expressing yourself, there needs to be a space for that. And ceramics, some schools do ceramics, but a lot of the NCA qualifications, like for me, it was all 2D. And I didn't really blossom until I found the 3D. Love objects. And so to sort of have a space to give someone else that is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely, it's lovely. It can be anything. It can be a hobby. It can be a job. It can be and everything in between, which is quite nice. And we get everything in between, which is fun.
Yeah, I love the way I can tell that you're just sort of, you've got your finger on the pulse, you're ready to go, you're doing what you do, but you're also open to new ideas. And you can just see that sometimes you're like, you have an idea, and then like the tote bags, for example.
There's socks coming.
Oh, really?
I'm so excited for the socks. Nerikomi mixed up pattern socks. And I think I love patterns. I love colour, I love vibrancy and patterns. And so the socks are
and the tote
exciting.
bags are kind of inspired by similar patterns, aren't they?
They're taken directly from the mugs.
They are.
Yeah, so when we make stripes, so basically we stain, if we go back to our process of the Nerikomi functional wear, we take clay and we completely dry it out and then make it into a slurry and add pigment. Intensely laborious process. And then we build the pattern, so the stripes are made in the clay. So they've all got just a clear glaze on them. There's no colour in the glaze. We build the pattern, pop it on the side and give it a slice. Then we roll out these gigantic striped slices. Get our cookie cutter templates, cut everything out, the vase, the mug, everything. And then they are formed, based and handled, dried, sponge bathed, which is a technique that's largely unique to us, where we give them all their colours a clean up, fired, glazed, fired again. So it takes 56 days for one piece to go through the entire process.
Really?
We batch process, but sometimes we'll have rainbow on, and then we'll have red, and then we'll have turquoise. We make 12 different colours because I'm a sucker for punishment.
Wow.
And then when you cut out from the slab, right, it's a striped slab, you've got excess. And we just spent all that time staining it. There's a lot of coloured pigment in it. Pigment is expensive because it's got to survive high temperatures for us. We call it ceramic stain. It's all made of heavy metals, lovely, tasty. And we take all those scraps and then we re-roll them through the slab roller, and that's how we get them mixed up. And so the mixed up pattern is totally random, and that's what we made the tote bags from.
Right. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. And how do you get these ideas? Is it sort of middle of the night stuff, or is it sort of brainstorming with your staff, or how does it come about?
Oh, my team are really important now, but for me it's being in the process, in the studio, in the clay, working. It took me Kinna, they had their cup show really recently. I don't know if you've seen that. They do it every year around this time, and it's got dots. They've got Nerikomi dots. Took me like 4 years to work that out, to try and get dots that stayed dotty, like circular. But a conversation with Brogan, who's been with me for about 5 years, one of my main makers, who's got her own brand as well, which is just beautiful. I was like, we're going to figure this out. And over a series of conversations, over a series of trying things, and just being in the material is where I find the inspiration. Sometimes the artwork's a little bit more conceptually based. The idea will drive it a little bit more. But all the functional wear, I find when I want to come up with a new range, I just start somewhere. The first few ones are usually shocking. They usually go into the seconds. But we're sort of just experimenting with a slipcast range at the moment. And that's sort of just reached a milestone where it'll pop into the shop soon, which is really fun.
So do you feel like you're experimental with your practice?
Probably to the extreme. A lot of the work I made at art school was video-based ceramic, where I'm videoing processes of clay that are breaking down. I'm really interested in deconstruction in my art practice. Found this amazing process where we could get shells to kind of fluff up and kind of absorb water and then sort of slack down. It's a very fun process. And we were videoing that for a long time. Clay cubes with shells inside them, so they break down as you add water. Yeah, a lot of fun things like that.
And that's sort of aside from your business. That's your art making.
Well, it's very difficult to commercialise a sculpture that doesn't exist after 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So I haven't worked out how to sell that one yet.
It must be quite nice, though, to have those quite sort of different ways of thinking and working.
Gives you a lot of freedom, I think, in the art practice. There's no pressure on the art practice to sell. And I think that allows it to be more experimental because, if the stripes are walking out the door, then that gives you a bit of space to go, okay, well, what's something wild I can do in my art practice that doesn't need to be commercially viable?
Yeah, which is quite liberating.
Well, that's the goal, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
To make work without thinking about the buyer.
Yeah. But it's lovely in a way. I mean, it does actually work really well, doesn't it? Having the business where you are thinking about the buyer. It's quite commercial. And then the other side.
The ideas bleed across boundaries. Having the shops made me really think about the experience of maybe an art show. Like how can you take your audience in and have them experience something, not just look at an object? And I think that will kind of be where my art practice goes next. I mean, we live in rural Waikato, so Hamilton is very vibrant with art making, and there's a lot going on in Hamilton with MADE, with festivals like Boone, with everything that the creatives do. And then we live 20 minutes away, which is a much more rural town. And it's like, cool, well, how do you create an experience that engages with the everyday person? Because a mug engages with the everyday person. Everybody understands the mug. But then how do you have someone have a transformative art experience with clay that everybody can tap into? I think that's a really interesting question. So when we smashed the vases for the depot show, I smashed them outside my store. And we were videoing some content before, because I was like, well, if we smash a vase on Instagram, then hopefully people will come. And we tried it, and we smashed a vase, and I didn't realize there were some people kind of in the distance kind of walking away, and they all turned around and were like, are you okay? And it's like, oh, sorry, we meant to do that. And it's this, intricately carved vase with my innermost thoughts carved into it. And then to have someone else smash that is quite an interesting. But everybody can relate to a broken ceramic piece. And so I think there's this experiential thing as well that can happen.
Yeah. And what do you find, from small business owner to small business owner, what do you find challenging about running a business?
So many things. The level of administrative work is insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, how often are you on your emails?
Yeah, it's a lot. Although my mentor said to me And it was really good advice, actually, just, the stuff that you really don't want to do.
Yeah.
I have an administrator who does
do you?
certain things, which is so amazing. She's one of these people who, I think I've mentioned her before on the podcast. She's just like, loves detail, loves lists, loves super organized spaces. And so she runs all the materials for my classes and runs the art store and does all the sort of credits and invoices for people and that stuff. And it's so good. And she's amazing.
Great.
And it's not work that I go into the art store now.
You could do it.
I could do it, but I'm not very good at it because I could be good at it if I had to be, but it's not my thing.
You're not interested in it. It's not your area of expertise.
No.
She can probably do it faster than you, so it's more efficient. Yeah,
she's very efficient and she's very good with systems, which I am too, but not in that way.
Good. And you're a CEO. You've got other jobs to do that are more valuable that nobody else can do.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
You've got to balance that.
Funny, I'm terrible at sitting down and making product, which sounds funny. I'm actually the opposite way around. So I get makers in to make my work and I sit there doing all the invoicing and because that's my area of expertise. But I can't sit down and just make mugs all day until my to-do list is done. So I have like a couple of main makers who are amazing. They just come in every day and they make product. They're making right now while I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, which is great.
Which is incredible. And they're awesome. They've both got their own practices and they're awesome.
And it's great for them too as artists to have that other employment.
Yeah, well, a lot of them only work for me. Most of my team are part-time so that they have their own area as well.
Which is good.
And I'm highly supportive of that because they've got to develop as an artist. And then I do all the sort of what you call the running around admin tasks because actually that's what I'm good at and what I like. And it gives me the space to think about new things and, things like that.
Yeah.
But there's certain jobs that only a CEO can do. I haven't given myself that title yet. I'll change it.
I use that title.
I'll have to
It took me a little while to get to it.
Yeah, I think artist took a long time for me to get comfortable with. Someone recently called me an entrepreneur. That's not offensive in any way, shape or form.
No, that's good.
That's quite a compliment.
Yeah, it is. And I do feel like you are very entrepreneurial and you're quite innovative, I'd say. I mean,
Well, that's a compliment.
It feels like you have built this business, Mystery Creek Ceramics, but I feel like there's so much potential, which I really feel you're going to tap into.
I hope so.
I think that you are quite holistic in the way you look at your business.
Big picture thinking, right?
Big picture thinking. It's so important. And I feel like it's not like you're going to say, oh, this stripy tableware goes really well. People love it. Cool. Let's stick with that. You're not that person. You're like, okay, that's a good base. What else can we do with it?
I also think that I'm not alone in those ideas though. Like my mum was really key. She's like, cool. So the stripes, what happens if the stripes don't sell? They stop selling because they go through a product cycle, right? I did actually learn this at business school. The product cycle goes, it'll take a little while to pick up and then it'll go really big and then it will plateau. It might drop down, but then it'll just wiggle along, little ups and downs for the rest of its life. And that's how products exist in the world. So then if you need different products to be at different stages in their life, so you always need one that's coming up.
Yeah.
But that's that's that larger support network that's around me. Like I have a business mentor, I have artistic mentors, I have quite a few of those. And then both of my parents are really key, and then my partner's really key as well in a lot of the thinking and the working through ideas. I mean, my amazing technical team built my shop. All the shelves are custom made. They're absolutely beautiful. Everybody keeps trying to buy our tables. It's like, no, you can't have my table. That's mine. My partner won't make me another one, so I need that table.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. So there's a lot behind Mystery
That
Creek
helps.
Ceramics.
And I think sometimes in small business you are very much in your own head. So it's so good to have people feeding you ideas and, even just simple things like, it's not actually my business, but my own art practice. Mm-hmm. I was telling you before that Roy Mason, who I've just spoken to.
Oh, amazing.
He looked at my shell and polymer clay rings and gave me some feedback. And I was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. I mean, it is amazing to be given feedback by someone as incredible as Roy Mason. But still, it's something that I don't often get.
Yes.
And I think in business for me, it's the same. I have to work out a lot of stuff in my own head.
Yeah.
I don't bother my friends with my business thinking.
I think I'm a kind of person that talks about whatever's in my brain to whoever I'm with, which is both good and bad. But so whatever problem I'm dealing with, I'll just bring around with me for that day, and I'll talk to anyone who's around about that particular problem. Yeah, so I just bring my problems along with whatever and chat to. And I do have a lot of people to talk to. I do think you have to be selective about who you talk to, though, as well. I think that's really important. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. And be selective about who you ask. And over the years, you get more selective. In particular problems, I might take to particular people just to get a different perspective. On it.
That's very smart. And do you find that the pressures of business sometimes affect your mental health?
Operating a small business is stressful. I'm sure you know. We've had our worst sales month in November that we've ever had with the shop open. The recession, has been, I think our sales in the store were down 51% in November. And that was shocking. And I constantly think about getting a job at New World. Constantly. I don't even know if I could get a job at New World, but I constantly like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to move forward? How am I going to think of a new product? How am I going to deal with this issue? The balance between custom making and making to order and constantly pivoting and changing the way you think. And with that drop in sales in November, I panicked. Absolutely. And, we've just introduced some classes into the shop now because of it. And those are ticking up really beautifully, and that's really good. But it's about being flexible.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's scary.
It is really scary. And it's about just sort of staying responsive. And sometimes I find that the more difficult times are actually great times for me to really stand back and reflect and look at my business and think, what am I doing? What could I be doing? How could I do some things better? And sometimes I think if you're ticking along really beautifully, you don't kind of go there. So sometimes those harder times are actually quite positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're scary.
They are scary. And stressful. And it does wake you up at night sometimes.
Oh, I wake up at 5 and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay that bill? That's scary. But then sometimes, it's all about balancing. It's like you've got a beautiful space here. And do you ever run out of space, reorganize it, and find a whole lot more space? Does that happen to you?
Not really.
Oh, okay. That's not so. Well, I find that if we don't have a large space, it's probably double the size of this, and about once a year I'll clear it out. And it's like if I haven't moved something in a year, if it's clay, stain, like slip, and a material, ingredient, a box, whatever, it's like cool, that's going. And yeah, our space isn't huge, but you sort of reorganize it and make it work. And so that's kind of how I view the problem solving. We're about to go into a little bit of a reorganize and make it work because we had such a bad November, and the Christmas, December sales aren't ticking up as much. And all the questions come in like, oh gosh, well, everyone's going to buy stuff off somewhere else, and everyone's going to, like, the international market's back open again, and that wasn't when I first emerged, and oh no, what if they're all sick of rainbows? There's all these questions are flying around in your head constantly. Like genuinely, about every 2 weeks, I'll just like, gosh, I hope New World's hiring. But I've got a team. But you sort of get up and do it anyway. You sort of feel the fear and carry on.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that balance. It's the balance. And sometimes you do think, oh my God, it'd be so nice just to get a paycheck and that's my money and I don't have to pay anyone else, or
100%.
Don't have any, business related bills. I just go, or work related bills. I just go to work, get the money. But then I know I actually wouldn't like that.
Well, maybe you'd like it for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And I know that, there's pros and cons both ways. And so you've just got to look at it like that.
I think sometimes I always think, oh, well, wouldn't it be easier if someone else sold all your work? Wouldn't it be easier if, I was chatting with someone recently and they said, oh, yeah, I think my work's better because I don't have to sell it. And it's like, I'm sure that my work would be better if I didn't have to sell it. But, you can frame it that way, or you can flip it and say, well, how do I approach my social media or my marketing in the same way that I approach my art practice? What are the problems I'm trying to solve here? How do I make this the best that I can make it? It's the same thought process.
Yeah.
It's just applied differently.
Yeah.
And like right now we're doing a lot of time investment for me in our marketing, and it's really challenging. Like I haven't gone viral overnight. I'm so upset.
I don't get that viral thing. But I mean, yeah, I've really noticed you on Instagram lately, and you're doing quite a lot of videos of you talking, and you're sharing like your 30th birthday, and you're sharing sort of personal stuff in amongst, you know, what you're doing with your art practice and with your business and all the different things.
Yeah.
And I think you're really good at it.
Oh, well, that's very kind. I will still say every time I video, I still feel like a Wally behind the scenes. I don't think that's ever going to change. I haven't got to like videoing myself in public yet. That's like the next stage. Then I'll become an influencer. No, it is really scary, and you've got to put yourself out there and stuff. But that's the stage that I think we've reached. That's the next area of growth.
And you have to do it really to keep moving and to keep sort of getting your work out there and your product out there, especially now you've got a store as well. Yeah, but you are good at it, and it's quite brave, I think. I mean, you're younger, so I think young people do it much better than older people.
We've grown up with the technology at our fingertips. It's a lot more intuitive for us. Yeah, I think. But I mean, like I follow some people that are way more popular than me on TikTok and a lot older than me. I think it's about showing up authentically as yourself. Yeah. So if you love the beanie with the pom-poms, Mum bought that for me. Always wear that in the studio. And it's hard. Some days you don't want to do it, but you just do. Yeah. It's like some days you get scared about the bills, but you just pay them anyway. Yeah. You just got to carry on. It's part of it. It's part of what you do. And you do use TikTok, don't you? I do. How do you find that? We've sort of never been that great on Instagram, because Instagram sort of came up before all the really big creators got there. And I discuss this with a lot of different artists. We talk about all the algorithms, and my business coach is really good for me in this. She helps me a lot. TikTok's algorithm is more aggressive, and I almost feel like it gives me a bit more of a better chance. Like I feel like we work with a photographer who's just takes those amazing still photographs of our work. You do. I was going to say that. It's not me. You have amazing photographs taken. It's not me. And great ones of you as well. Which is nice. I don't take those either. No, and you can tell they're professional photographs. I work with this amazing photographer, Holly Kate Photography, and she's awesome. I was one of her very first kind of clients, and her business has come up at the same time as mine, and she's awesome. And so we got this sort of still thing sorted, but we got it a little bit late for Instagram, and now the videos come up and we're like, oh gosh. And so now I'm like, oh, how do I make my video as kind of curated as my photo? But we haven't quite got there yet. But it's just about, we just try. We're just trying things. I try things. I find that because I'm the face of my own business, there's a lot of like influencer-led brands out there that they just show up regularly, and whilst they have a big following before they're a business, it's like I sort of am the face of the product. I design the product. So if you get to know me, then maybe you might be more inclined to want to get to know the product. Yeah, and that's been a conscious decision on your part that you are going to be part of that branding. Yeah, I identified early on that was an area of weakness for us. And sure, we have a physical presence now with the store, but the process is really interesting as well behind the scenes of how we make it, and I think it's so integral to the work. So I had to figure out a way to show that. Yeah, it's definitely a very important part. It's so good for people to see the process shots and then connect with your business, I think, in a much stronger way because they're connecting with you. Well, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, and hopefully they like me. And they'll love you. You come across really well. And do you use TikTok to make the video, and then can you put it onto Instagram? I actually record the video on my phone, slice it together with CapCut, which is actually the editor TikTok is in TikTok as well, and then download it and then distribute it. We actually go across 5 platforms now. So we do Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest is our newest sort of big investment area in time. And we've just started posting on Google because we're a business on Google.
Right.
And we have big scheduling tools in behind the scenes, and there's actually 2 of us that work on that. So I think I calculated it all out for a class the other day, but I think it's 3 full-time days a week that goes into the social media that you see for Mystery Creek Ceramics.
Wow.
The content is made slightly differently for each platform because each platform's kind of looking for something different. Pinterest is a really interesting one, I think, because it's more of a search engine than a sort of a social media. And the New Zealand market of Pinterest is, it's really growing. It used to be mostly American, and now it's sort of changing. And the demographic for Pinterest is exactly the same as the demographic for my business. So that's, and then TikTok, because of the way it works, it's not interested in how many followers you have. You can it's more interested in how people engage with your content. So I think I feel a little bit more relaxed because I can't sort of yet create that curated reel type that Instagram's sort of asking for. We've got that in the sort of static imagery, but not in I'm not a videographer. I don't know if you can tell. The beanie's not doing anything for it either, but I think TikTok might just be maybe for me, and I might be wrong here, I'm just a bit more comfortable with that platform in that it's not worried about how many followers you have. It's just trying to get it to people to see it. I mean, I don't think its algorithm's particularly healthy as a user, but for a business, we just try everything, see what happens.
Yeah,
if it doesn't work, drop it off.
But that's a lot of time, isn't it, devoted to social media?
Yeah, 3 full-time days. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a newsletter as well, which we've just ramped up quite significantly.
But that's a big part of business is marketing.
And it's funny because when I was at business school, I was like, marketing's, again, this is a classic Alex statement, the marketing's kind of a nothing major. Like, what do you learn in marketing? And then now I'm as a business owner, I'm like, gosh, I should have just done marketing.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done anything else. I should have just done marketing.
Yeah.
Because having a great product is good, but if you can't get it in front of the right people, then it's useless.
Exactly. And that's what my business mentor said, you're not in the business you think you're in the marketing business.
Or I think most makers are.
Yeah, it's so true.
And then how do you develop that skill? And then how do you also make it work for you? Like, I need a big system in place. So we use a scheduling tool, and I work about maybe 2 weeks, 1 week in advance. Because if I feel like making reels, then I'm going to make a heap of reels and then stop. And then if I'm having a day where I just want to make mugs because my brain's not working, then I'll have that. And that's how I work. I couldn't show up and record every day. And so then it's going, okay, well, I've got, like, how do I do this? But then how do I do it in the way that works for me? Which is how my whole business works, really.
Yeah.
How do I do it in a way that I can do it?
Yeah, that works for you and works with all the other things you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing, getting that balance right. And your website is great. I mean, I really enjoyed your blog. Thank you. Some really great posts in there, which were really informative and interesting.
Oh, did you like the cream clay versus white clay? That would have been highly relevant to you.
Yeah, I loved I loved all that stuff. And you talking about your origin story, and it was great, and it was nice for me to get all that information all in one spot. So you're doing really well with that. What are you thinking for the future as far as galleries go and the growth of your business?
I've always had the big dream, and the big dream started, I guess, from once I got hooked on ceramics, and that is the full. Originally it was a teaching studio, my own big teaching studio, and then since then a few things have been added on. So the teaching studio, then we'll also have to add manufacturing, which is my product. So add that in there. Then we'll add, a gallery with my product, and then we'll also add supplies. And that would be the ideal dream. I love my galleries. My galleries probably sell my work better than I do. I don't know if I'd ever fully let go of them. A lot of them have mentored me along the way. A lot of them picked me up really early. And working with them is really awesome. You work in ways or you learn things. You know, they sell your work not in a different way, but they have different skills than you do. And I think being, you know, in Made has taught me a lot about retail. I mean, I knew nothing about retail. So how can I sort of say that, well, I just am sort of slightly arrogant enough to think that I'll just give it a go and see what happens. And I've learnt a lot. And I think, I don't think I'd ever fully get rid of all of them, because I can't do a gallery in the way that they'd do it, with everybody else's work and a beautiful environment and everything like that, because the clay is also so important to me too, and the teaching aspect and things like that. So I'm never going to have a clean, beautiful gallery. So that, and they do that really lovely.
Yeah.
And I view that commission, you know, that for me is an investment in reaching in marketing.
Yeah, and reaching a different audience potentially.
Yeah, and to start with, I had no audience, so I needed them, you know, as we develop an audience, but I still don't have as big a following as a lot of my galleries, and they're fabulous, and they do fun things. It's good to, and you're in with other artists, you're in with lots of other work. It's inspiring.
Yeah, it's totally inspiring.
Yeah.
And I imagine it sort of, you know, it's another way for you to promote your store through your galleries potentially.
Yeah, I actually do a lot of promotion of them because I love what they do. I collect other potters' work myself. I don't have many of my own mugs in my house. My mug collection is everybody else's, because I just love the medium so much, and I love what everybody takes the same lump of clay and does something completely different. And I think that sort of network of makers is important. And not all makers want a store, you know, want to show up in person.
I feel like the most challenging part of having a store is just working out your suppliers and how to actually run that process of getting product in.
Do you mean, like for me, I guess it's like clay and stuff, because we're the only supplier for the gallery side of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm problematic as a supplier for myself.
But even just finding, like, where do you get the clay from?
Oh, I have an amazing network of suppliers. Honestly, business is a lot of fun when you work with really cool people. So we work with so many people. We work with Primo down in Palmerston North. We work with CCG in Auckland. We work with Max Marge. We work with all kinds of people. We work with American suppliers, international suppliers. It's just incredible. And it's so fun. Everybody's just trying to solve problems. They're trying to get products to the right people. They're trying to market their products. We've actually made some of our own products as well. We made little glaze claws and a knife because I couldn't find anything on the market that I wanted. But it's so fun. Business can be great. We work with these guys to solve problems, constantly talking to people who are having the same issues as you, or trying to reach other customers, and we actually work together really well. I love both on the sort of the business side of it and the pottery side of it. I love working with other creatives or other people.
And how did you work out who to work with? Was it a sort of trial and error thing or word of mouth?
Yeah, trial and error. I just like working with nice people, really. It's that straightforward.
And if you don't like them, goodbye.
I'm not that, I can be that savage, but yeah, working with people who are excited to work with you and collaborate is fun.
Yeah.
And nice people, really. There's a lot of nice people in the world. And celebrating other people's success, I think, is really important as well. A friend of mine just got a grant from Creative New Zealand, and I was just so happy for her. She's been working for that for such a long time. I went in for the same grant and didn't get it, but that's okay. Next time.
Yeah.
You know, we'll give it another shot.
And you might be able to learn from her. I think I need to speak to her.
Oh, I think you do. She's fantastic. I had just had an artist come and stay with me, actually one of my Nerikomi heroes, for 3 days in my studio, Larissa Warren from Ratbag Studios, and she taught me so much. She's from Tambourine Mountain. It was fun. We both do Nerikomi in totally different ways, and we learnt so much from each other. It was just incredible. And I think that's where the real fun comes. I think when you find people who challenge you in a way that you're comfortable with, to make better work, or to be a better supplier, or to have better customer service, or, you know, make a better product or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really about, and then it's fun along the way. And
you're so good at connecting with people. I think you are.
Really?
Like, you might not see that, but I think from someone who feels they don't always fit in, I think you are actually really skilled at that.
I think I've always had quite a strong community focus, and I think that comes from my parents. And I didn't find art for me, well, ceramics for me, was so key to my depression recovery and so important for me to sort of get back in touch with myself, that if I thought I could do that for one other person, or I could have one other person that had an amazing art experience, or their well-being improved from writing in their journal or whatever, then that would be really important. And ceramics, for me, I'm just so passionate about it. It doesn't matter what form it's in, I just love it. You know, if it's somebody else making the best mugs in the world, then amazing. And I just love it from all aspects, from a well-being perspective, from a business perspective, from a problem-solving perspective, and simply just from a making perspective. It's such a fabulous kind of all-encompassing thing. And if I was younger, if I did it all again, and someone had sort of said to me that I would listen to, which clearly doesn't exist, but, you know, pretending, you know, maybe you should give this a go, I wonder how my life would have been different. And what's really interesting to me is I think that society needs, the interesting part is that if we view sport as this well-being tool, I think creativity is the same. And I went to engineering because I had to get a real job, and I had society sort of told me that this was the way that you do things. But imagine if the message had been different and I had always wanted to have an art career. I mean, I don't think I would have the skills that I had today, and it all worked out in the end. But I just don't want the younger children who have certain skills or certain ways of seeing the world or things like that to feel that it's not quite right. And I think that's really essential in the bigger why, and in the community stuff that I do, to get people into seeing art that aren't necessarily, like we ran a workshop last night, and the biggest thing that I hear in my store constantly is, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, I can't paint, I can't draw. My mum's creative in the way she lines her veggies up in her garden. You know, I view business as a creative practice, not the accounting, obviously. Ooh, get in trouble for that. But I think everybody is creative, and I think it's a matter of tapping back into that. And we're not all creative in the same way. Like, I can't paint, I can't draw a cow, I can't draw anything, but I'm creative in the clay. And I think that fact that so many people believe that they're not creative is actually sad, because I think we all are. We just don't quite know how to tap into it.
No. Or you haven't had that encouragement, or you've had some discouragement. I mean, you've had some negative experience that's made you think that you don't have skills in that area.
Or that creativity is not a good thing. Creativity is such an essential skill. I think it's essentially, I mean, it's more than this, but it can essentially boil down to just problem solving. And it just depends on what problem you're focusing on.
Yeah, and to me, it's the center of life.
Yeah, and I think without creativity, I'm not a lot. And so. And
you're not good, like in yourself.
Yeah, I'm not. It'll be if I don't touch clay for a while, you sort of notice. And I think I think creativity needs to be viewed as a valuable skill. No matter what form of creativity you have or choose to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Well, Alex, let's get on to the questions. What would you say to your younger artistic self, or to perhaps anybody who is starting their creative journey?
I think I've made it clear in this podcast that I wouldn't have listened to anything anyone would have told me, but I'll try anyway. I think I would have said to my younger artistic self is have a little bit of faith in yourself, what you're good at and who you are, and go that way rather than trying to go another way. I don't know if I would have listened. I mean, Mr. Holton tried to tell me, and I think honestly that's probably the advice I would give myself now as well, is just have a little bit more faith in yourself. New World's not hiring. You're all good.
Yeah. And what would you say is one of the most challenging aspects of your life or being an artist?
I think, and this is a bit weird, or it might come across a bit funny, but the biggest challenge I have is confidence in my own work. And I'm not talking about my functional wear there. I'm really happy with the stripes. I love them. I'm talking about the artwork. I got a big confidence knock in 2021. I got it in 2021. I was making video work about melting ceramics, and I got into portage, our big award. And I got into every art award I entered that year. And that was a really big goal for me at the time, to get into an art award, because I'd been rejected from so many. And I did. I got into everything. I got into the contemporary art. I got into portage. I got into clay. I got into everything. And it was such a big year. And what won that year was a photograph of clay. And that was really controversial in the clay circles. There was a lot of sort of criticism of the fact that it wasn't clay, essentially. And everything that was said about that work at the time by potters, a lot of potters, actually applied to my work as well. My work wasn't the headline because it didn't win, which, thank goodness, I don't think my confidence could have taken it at the time. I was actually really, of course you want to win because it's a big prize, but I was really relieved but everything that was said about that work by people that I respected applied to mine. And it actually stopped me making conceptual work for about 2 years.
Really?
And I was like, cool, okay, we'll focus on the business. The business is where it's at. I had an out. I had a really easy out. And it's like, no, the business is really busy. I can't make conceptual work. But I actually think it was that confidence thing. And I think, this show at Depot that's on right now was the first foray back into that publicly. And interestingly enough, another photograph has won portage. And I really love the work. I think the show is really beautiful. I love it. And I'm a little bit older now. Yeah, I mean, you could say that criticism is part of being an artist and that I, should have just carried on and not worried about it. But it did hit me really hard.
Mm. Well, it makes you start sort of challenging yourself or your own thinking.
Yeah. And it is art. It is ceramic art because you're dealing with clay. But it is much more conceptual than, say, a studio potter or a studio practitioner would have come up. And I think both opinions are really valid. I think in ceramic learning, the end goal I think would be to have a ceramic school, because I think both schools of thought are very useful. I think there's this awesome school of thought that comes up through a technical aspect of ceramics, and Nerikomi is a very technical way of working. We join clays together and do all kinds of crazy things that break all the rules in pottery. And I think that's really important to have a really good technical background. But I think the way that some artists approach clay is also really interesting. They approach it from a totally different sort of, with that much more art focused. And I think that's interesting too. And I think both are really relevant. So that was a really big thing. And I don't think I've really got my confidence back. And I think that will just be a slow process. I have all these ideas that buzz around in my head, but I'm a little bit too scared to execute them. It was funny when I did the smashing event. It was sort of a performance art event, and I was so nervous. I rushed it all and fluffed it. Everybody had fun because they still smashed some vases. But I think that will be the sort of the biggest challenge for me moving forward. And I think the object maker really challenged that process, really challenged me as well. It put me in a zone that I was very uncomfortable, and it was quite painful. And I think there's areas to develop there.
It probably was quite good timing that you had that year working with other people and sort of pushing your own practice and your own thinking and sort of get back into that zone a little bit.
And it was funny because as we installed the show, I said to one of our sort of mentors, I said, no, I'm going back to making just pots, and they're going to be Nerikomi pots. Maybe I'll make some more one-off pots, and it'll, they'll sell, but they're pots, so they're a thing. And then I had some really amazing people say, oh, I love your work. And I walked out, I was like, no, I'm going back to making conceptual art. And I'm like, so I sort of ebb and flow.
Yeah, depending on how people react.
Which is terrible, right?
No, but it's human nature.
Yeah.
And over time you might not need that as much.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is if I develop my confidence and sort of work that way, but that would be the biggest challenge. The ideas sit there, but I haven't had the confidence to execute them. And whilst I come across very confident in other areas, that revealing nature of myself, like I'm terribly scared, and maybe this is a bit more of a challenge, is if someone actually reads those manifestos written on the vases, you can read them, what they'll think of me. It's my innermost, thoughts, but then at the same time I did put them out there, so it's like I'm on the fence,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the words you can't read.
But good on you for going there.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mm. And why, I think we kind of know from what you've talked about already, but why do you make the kind of work that you make?
It's my way of making sense of the world and of showing myself to the world. I had an amazing experience with Monet's water lilies when I was younger, and that will always be like one of the most transformative experiences. So it's making in clay and working through work. Making work is how I both make sense of the world and show up in the world in my most true form, I think.
Mm. Thank you so much, Alex, for making the trip up from
Te Awamutu.
Sorry.
This has been a blast.
I've loved having you here. I really don't want to let you go.
No, I could talk all day.
Yeah, I feel like I could talk all day to you. And I have so much respect for you and the way that you run your life. And I do think you can definitely wear that entrepreneur hat with pride because you've got these, it's really interesting to me how you've got these different sort of parts of your life and of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And each of them sort of feed you in different ways. But, you know, you're obviously very hardworking and can manage all of that. And then thank you too for sharing your mental health journey, which I think would be really useful for some listeners.
Yeah.
And I think you're amazing. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mandy. Honestly, it was life goals when you reached out and wanted me on the podcast. I was stoked. And it's been great. I think it's been every time I meet another artist and have an interesting conversation, my life is enriched. And this is what that's been like. Now everybody else just gets to share it too.
Yeah, perfect. They can go walking with their dog and listen to Alex and Mandy.
100%.
There you go.
What more do you want?
So, yeah, thank you so much, Alex.
Oh, no, this has been great. It's fun.